Welcome to the teaching ministry of Apostle Arthur Bailey. These teachings are designed to help you live a spirit-filled life while discovering the Hebrew roots of our faith. For more information on this life-changing ministry, please visit www.apostlebailey.com. And now, here is Apostle Arthur Bailey.
This morning I have been praying yesterday, because what I really try to do is get the Father's will on what it is that He would have me to share. And this morning I want to talk with you about deception and the traditions of men. I also want to point out and lay some foundation, because what I believe the Western church, the traditional church, has done is tried to westernize or Christianize the scriptures. And therefore, from a Western point of view and from a Christian point of view, we look at the scriptures through those eyes, and oftentimes we miss a great deal, because we have to remember that the scriptures was written in a language and given to a culture that is much different than the language and culture we live in. I also began to think about how I got to the place I am. And I decided that I wanted to kind of share a little bit of my own personal testimony, also to try to help us as we move into this message that I want to share with you today. Because I've had to do a lot of soul searching. I've come into some information, into some knowledge that caused me to believe that for a long time in my life I was deceived. And oftentimes when the light comes on and you hear things for the first time, whereas you begin to think you should have heard this a long time ago, you begin to ask some questions. At least I did. You see, back in 1969, at the age of 11 years old, I distinctly heard the call of God on my life. I was 11 years old. Now, growing up in Mississippi, my parents had a goal of making sure that we as children went to church. I mean, you could say I grew up in church. And so at the age of 11, when I began to hear God's voice, it was really strange to me, especially growing up in a Baptist church, because in the Baptist church, I'll tell you, you get some good preaching. And if you've never had or had the experience of a good black Baptist down south choir, oh, it's something. You hear what I'm saying? They rock. I mean, really, really rock. And so those choirs would reaffirm the messages that was being preached. And not only did you get good preaching, but you got good entertainment when you went to church. You were entertained. And you could leave there feeling uplifted. But unfortunately, the uplifting came from the entertainment and the environment in which you were, which afterwards, when you begin to look for substance, there was really no substance, and so it was like an addiction. You had to go back week after week and get reignited and re-edified and look forward to that following week, because somewhere along by Tuesday, the tank was getting empty. So the traditional church instituted a midweek service, because they knew that the people's tank was getting empty by Tuesday. So come on and let's give you a foretaste of what's going to happen to get you through to Sunday. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And so in 1969, I heard this voice talking to me. Now, with this voice working on the inside of me and this call I knew, I really didn't know what to do with it. By 1976, I was 17 years old. And because I didn't really understand or know what to do with what was going on inside me, I kind of walked away from the church. I just I walked away. I joined the Navy in 1976, and you can say I kind of pulled a Jonah because I got on a ship. I didn't go to Tarsus, but throughout the Atlantic and the Pacific, spending hours and hours, days and days, weeks and weeks and months out in the middle of the ocean. And it's interesting that way out in the middle of the ocean, I can see the glory of God. And no matter where I went, and of course, you know, my parents understood training up a child in the way they should go mean you get your children to church and get them in Sunday school and they sit on the morning bench. It was more of a church experience than it was a biblical or a spiritual experience. And so even though I was brought up in church, I had really nothing in me other than what I saw from the church people around me. And so I learned how to play church. Anybody know what I'm saying? You learn how to go through the motion. You learn the language. You learn how to jerk and shake and do all the stuff that good Christians do, and you get you a nice Bible cover, you know, all that kind of stuff. Because I really had no substance, by 1989, my life came crashing. I mean, I was into drugs and alcohol and chasing women and just doing all kinds of stuff. And interestingly enough, while I was doing all that stuff, I can remember the voice of God. And just a couple of experiences that I remember, I was sitting on a bar stool one day trying to literally drown out God's voice with some Johnny Walker Red. Literally. His voice is speaking to me. I'm sitting on a bar stool trying to get high, trying to get drunk, trying to drown this voice out. And here it is in a bar full of alcohol. The Father has got me ministering to somebody that, and it's like, God, why don't you just leave me alone? Anybody ever said that? I'm just let me have some fun. Unlike other sinners, I couldn't even enjoy the fun. I couldn't have fun in the bar. I mean, I just couldn't. I was an honest drug dealer. I couldn't cheat people. And I became one of those people who gave away more than they sold. A sucker for a stop. Anybody know what I'm saying? Well, anyway, by 1989, the bottom fell out of my life. My wife left me, the children took the children. I came home to an empty house. And for the first time in my life, I remember truly crying out to God. Truly crying out to him. My father was an alcoholic. My mother said to me, don't be like your father. Get some help. I checked myself into a rehab. And in a rehab center, God visited me in a drug rehabilitation center. And he did something that I later came to learn to be deliverance. He began to take me through a process of cleansing. And he said these words to me. He said that I needed to denounce my bloodline. That I needed to denounce